just got back from a crazy weekend.
It was the most people I think I've seen in like the last 3 or 4 years.
So now we're doing the thing that most people do, which is...
I can't. Not filming. You're still filming me. Someone please tell me that they're also really bad at that.
So everyone knows how toxic.
It's your first red flag, babe.
What do you think? You got it?
I don't have the same cough that I did before.
It's a positive. Did you put it in your mouth too? Oh, I love doing this. It makes me so happy. That's not from how I feel. That's from this. Oh boy. These aren't even like faint lines. Yours is so prominent. Yeah, both Jackie and I tested.
Positive?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I feel like I have a good one too.
First things first, I am a vaccinated individual and Jackie is.
Unvaccinated.
And this is our experience getting COVID-19 second time around. I wasn't like on my checklist of videos being like, I'm so excited for us to get COVID again, and then we can make a sequel to our first one that we made.
Here we are.
We had a wedding, we had a big film festival, after parties.
We were at a fan expo, which is like a Comic-Con with like thousands of people.
It's just a cluster of just people.
Because you'll say a whole point, like an entire thing, and then you'll go,
I know I do.
add to that.
And this video is going to be divided into several sections, and you can go to whatever point you want to go to in the bottom timeline. But what we want to talk about is what's it like? Round 2, baby.
Not awesome. No, it's not as bad, and it's lighter, and it's going away faster, but it's still like, am I allowed to swear? It's still like you're fucking sick. It sucks, but it's not as bad as the first time as you get it. And I think that Mr. Zachary gave it to me.
Oh, and you think the first time around you gave it to me?
I think so. That's what I think, yeah.
Since Jackie is the unvaccinated one, you would only assume that she's the one who would probably pass it off to me. But you feel otherwise. Now, why is that?
Well, you were getting symptoms before me.
Yeah, leading up to, I think, the day that we tested, like I was starting to feel tired, slowed down. The symptoms rolling up to the experience were very much similar to the first time around where I was starting to get brain fog, but just like tiredness, I think has been the overall repeating theme in both times we got it.
Yeah, the COVID sleepies, that is the worst part, is like your eyes burn because you don't want to wake up.
I'll even just roll through sections of the day where I'll be like, oh, I'm feeling great. I'm going to go for a walk. And then like 10 minutes into the walk, I'm ready to just go full horizontal. It's like you play the vertical horizontal game where you're like a 10-minute vertical is like a 30-minute horizontal and then rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I've been horizontal for most of the time.
Yeah, the worst part is the horizontals really don't buy you back any verticals.
No, it's just like once you're down, you're down.
Okay, so what are the key symptoms that you've had round 2?
Okay. The sleepies. I'm sorry. The fucking headache. Did anyone else have the headache? It is when you stand up and it's like pounding, and then you lay down and it's not any better. Anyways, the headache, the sleepies. Oh, my nose was running this time, but I don't cough as I'm coughing now, but I didn't cough as much, and my chest was not nearly as like I barely felt it in my chest. It was just kind of like a head cold.
On a scale to 1 to 10, 10 being the worst you've ever felt in your entire life, 1 being your baseline good, like that's a regular day. What's the worst you've been at on round 2?
Yeah, I think 6.
And where are you at now, day 3?
4.
That's not bad.
In general, not as intense as the first time, with all of the symptoms, I think.
Speaking as a vaccinated person, first off, we have no division in each other, and I know we've kind of...
I hate him.
we faced a lot of division through this. Like I lost one of my best friends to COVID. The idea of COVID. What we've been able to do throughout all of this is really try to keep those lines separate and really just use love as sort of the bonder. But anyway, that disclaimer aside, it is all your choice what you want to do, yes or no. And as we can illustrate to you, being a couple who one is vaccinated, one is unvaccinated, we've both gotten COVID, both at the same time. So really, the variables of getting it are both the same, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. So having COVID round 2 has been way less severe. Divide whatever symptoms were from round 1 by 2, and that's pretty accurate to how it's felt. I've still felt sleepy, been napping way more often. My nose, as you can hear, is a little like congested. I'd say at its worst, I was probably about like a 6.5. And now today, like as far as symptoms go, it's probably at like a 3 or a 4. But that said, it's like waves. Like I'll be at like a 4, and then all of a sudden I'll like get to a 6 every now and again, and then dive back down. I'll get like brain fog, fatigue, but again, nowhere close to round 1. It's like if I give myself 3 verticals, then I'm in like 20 horizontals after.
It's nice for me because I'm already horizontal, so I just get a friend to join me.
Yeah.
It feels really good out there. Ladies?
But when we're sick, it's really nice because I can't think. Why did you decide not to get vaccinated in the first place?
There's a lot of reasons, but my main reason was because I just didn't know if it was going to work. And I didn't want to take something before I knew that was going to be the answer. And I had this fear that it was going to get stuck in a loop where I was going to have to continue taking something in order to feel healthy. And because I didn't feel 100% sure that this was the answer, I didn't want to jump into it. So I just kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I started watching and realizing you have to get more and more and more, which is great if that's your choice. But for me, I was just like, if it was the answer, I feel like I'd know by now and I would have done it. And I still don't feel like this is the answer. And I hope there is an answer. I really do. But I just don't feel like this is the one right now.
Do you regret not getting it?
I don't think so. The worst part is the anxiety, which people had brought up in the comments of the last video, which is feeling super anxious because of the media hype around not being vaccinated and getting COVID. So I think even this time, like I had a fever and I was like, something's gonna happen. I'm not okay. I need to go to the hospital. So that is like the only thing that I wish didn't come with being unvaccinated. It's like, oh, I'm going to be more sick than everybody else to the point of severe illness. And then I'm waiting for the choice that does feel good.
COVID anxiety is for both ends. It's whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. And speaking as someone who's vaccinated, getting it the second time around, I was still just as afraid because you still suck. It's like there's this illusion of how much you suck in society's presence. And I'm sure it actually is probably amplified if you're unvaccinated, but it's like how much of a piece of shit you feel like getting sick. Like I remember when I got a cold back in the day, it was just sort of like, oh, like I got a cold. I'm probably going to go to work or I'll go to school in a day. Like I'll have one day off and that's as much as I can buy. But when you have COVID, it's like, God forbid, and they just recently changed the laws here in Canada. Now that you only have to be sick for a day, and then you can go back out into public, but they recommend you wearing a mask. But there's still this sort of stigmatization around it of how much like how dare you get it? Why are you getting this? Why are you exposing other people to it? And I know as someone who is unvaccinated, there's still those societal pressures, I think, that are on top of it, because here's the fun thing. So for someone so across the board, if you get sick or if I get sick, it's 24 hours mandatory isolation. That makes sense. If we both travel and cross the border and come back to Canada, I don't have to isolate. Jackie has to isolate for 10 days. Even with no signs or symptoms of any sort of virus, you have to quarantine. I don't. Even though we're both equally likely getting the virus. There's still some weird stuff that's happening, and because of those weird things, it creates a bizarre perception of these, of this sickness that goes into anybody, And clearly, it doesn't matter if you're vaxxed or unvaxxed, it still affects you. But then it just creates a weird perception.
I feel like I've been operating on a level that I'm just like not as good as everybody else, and I have to be more careful and more perfect than everyone else. Like I have to announce my status to everyone before I see them, and I have to make sure I tell everyone if I'm feeling any little bit of illness, and I have to make sure, like, I just feel like I have a million things, and I'm sure everyone feels that way, but I just feel like in terms of status, I'm just kind of like here, which affected my mental health for a long time because I felt really trapped and stuck and like just not as good.
But I'm better than you.
But there were so many friends in the comment section of our last video, which I was terrified to post, horrified. And everyone was so sweet and supportive and sharing their own experience of having their anxiety. And it made me feel so much better reading everybody's comments and just knowing like there are a lot of people in this same situation who are in it together. We just need to find each other.
Who's recovering better? I actually think I'm recovering way faster than you out of this. Now, this could be because I'm a young man. It could be an age thing. It could be a gender thing. It could be whatever strain we were exposed to. There could be a lot of variables, but there is one to be said of me being vaccinated in the situation and me kind of recovering a lot faster. Jacquie is suffering from a cough like she did the first time around, and it's a lingering cough. Both times around, I did not get a lingering cough. Both times around, I feel like I was on my feet maybe a little bit quicker than Jacquie afterwards. But to counter that, I was like down for a lot longer leading up to this. I was like all over. So for those of you who are like, oh, what works better? Does the vaccine help me out? I think it does, at least in this situation, looking at what we've both gone through. In my setup, I have recovered a lot faster. We've both probably had bad, shitty days, though. It doesn't matter. Like, I feel like whether you're vaccinated or not, you get COVID, you're still going to have, feel horrible. You're still going to feel like the lowest of the low. You're going to have brain fog, fatigue, all of that stuff. What we noticed in our recovery, though, is that I recover faster.
I still don't regret it, though.
Today marks day 2. You have one of the best weekends of your life, and then right afterwards, it's just like your immune system. How are you feeling?
One moment, please.
How are you feeling?
Like I have like that. Not so great, but not so bad. I feel bored, like really bored. Do you regret getting the vaccine?
I've had a long time to think about this, and I actually kind of do. Yeah,
I did not expect that, friends.
I remember the first time I got it, I remember I left the Walmart that I got it at being like, what did I just do?
You thought about it before you got it for a long time.
For me, the reason why I got it is my job really required getting it. There was just a few opportunities that were coming up that I just couldn't let down. And because of getting it, I've been able to, over the last year, do, I think, 3 more jobs than I probably would have been able to do without it. And those 3 more jobs have really helped me, but they're also, at the expense of putting something in my body that, before that, I really hadn't gotten vaccinated by anything else. And not because of anything other than growing up with a life-threatening illness and being in hospitals my whole life. Getting a vaccination has just been something that my family has avoided because of all the things and chemicals that are in there and some of the damages it can do. Growing up in the hospital, it really just made me want to steer clear of any sort of things to be put into my body. This is not downplaying or saying like it was a bad idea. I just, if I could relive the situation or the day where I was sitting in a Walmart in line to get a vaccine, I think I would have changed actually my decision. As someone who really, really cherishes their body, I know on one end you're like, oh, I got to do this to protect other bodies around my circle as well as protect myself from this virus. But speaking as someone who's gotten the virus twice, and not only have I gotten it twice, my whole family has gotten it. My grandmother in her 90s has gotten it. No one's died. No one's had long-term problems. And I know it's because we're on another hump of this. And I know round 1, people had long-term problems that also you guys shared about in the comments of our last video. Someone said that I think it was like 16 months after they were still facing issues. So long haul symptoms and people who have long haul, issues, that's not to be disregarded. But I think for someone who's healthy like myself, patience may have been a remedy just as strong as getting a fast acting vaccination.
I think what confused me about this whole situation is that every single human being has a different immune system and is going to respond differently to whatever they have, whether it's COVID or a vaccine or anything else, any virus or vaccine or whatever's happening inside your body. We're trying to compare everybody in one big group when we have different ages, different genders, different immune systems, we're completely different, every single one of us. So getting the vaccine or not getting the vaccine could be completely different in every individual. We just don't know what the answer is. There's no positive answer here. It just sucks all around. It's awful.
What we gained from our first video was that a lot of people really appreciated that it wasn't a political perspective, nor is this one. And if you would like to have an interesting stream of a YouTube experience, you can go into the comments on our last videos, about 258 beautiful comments from people sharing all of their perspectives from their own personal experiences. And if you feel perhaps maybe lonely in this sort of climate, or even just curious, you can take a look at that and it'll kind of shine a perspective on everything.
Yeah, and if you want to share your feelings about whether you regret anything or you wish you had done something differently, whichever way that you swing in this situation, you can do that here or in our other video comments. It's kind of nice just to be able to express yourself in a place where people are not going to angrily comment back at you.
Please just come into this with an open mind and obviously know that everyone's going through their own COVID anxieties through this. So leading up to getting COVID for the second time around, I had a bit of a scare. There was someone who I was near who tested positive, and all of a sudden it was like my whole life shut down. I was on a trip. I immediately was like, I have to get home. I have to go back. I have to isolate. I have to do all these things. And despite the symptoms actually only being like a cold, your whole life is radically changed in those moments. I had a whole shoot figured out. I had all these other things planned on my travels. I had friends I wanted to meet. And immediately after realizing I was in contact with someone, I sacrificed everything in order for the betterment of my health. And I think that's the silver lining in maybe the vast majority of this, is the fact that we push our maybe traumas that we gained through the pandemic onto each other, being like, well, you didn't feel what I felt. I went through this. This was really hard on me. This really hurt me. This, whether it is your trauma of not getting vaccinated and the amount of shame that you got, or the feelings to which those who are afraid of this sickness and maybe losing their job or losing their spouse or losing their parents who might be in the healthcare system, whatever that is, this has created a lot of fear around things. But personally, a silver line that I've gained out of this is less of the divide and lack of perspectives, but I think the universal appreciation for treating our bodies well. While it's really tough to navigate whether to get vaccinated or not vaccinated, should you isolate, should you not do things, what is the government saying this week to next, it's tough to sort of translate those things and especially support things when there's so much stigmatization that's happening amongst others and division. But I think the conclusive material here, the conclusive statement is to take care of your body.
Whatever that means to you as well, because it's going to mean something different to each person.
When we get sick, it is our body giving us flares, being like, slow down, take care of me. I'm the only one you got. Both times I got sick, I was overexerting myself, stressing myself out in public places. The first time we got sick with COVID, we were at the trucker rally. And then now the second time we've gotten it is at a bunch of public spaces. So the common denominator is public spaces and no sleep. I actually think wearing a mask, taking care of yourself, treating your body well, eating well, living healthy is probably your best solution to avoiding it.
Or maybe you can't. I had one friend who isolated so hard she never left her apartment, and then the one time that she left her apartment she got COVID.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst.
You just can't, you just have no fucking idea.
I feel like another lesson from everything is you can't control what's going to happen. And I think the more we try to control it, the worse we become amongst each other.
Most of the time when people feel fear, they take that fear and translate it into control because their fear is something out of their control.
Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, and learning. If you are interested in following myself and Jacquie, you can take a look at us on this YouTube channel. We're going to be sharing more of our journeys throughout life as creatives, individuals, health and wellness peeps, and everything else we do in life, whether it's getting COVID or making a movie. Do you have anything you want to say to that?
I love you.
Love you guys a whole heck of a lot, and hopefully you have a special, wonderful day. And, you know, if you're sitting there with COVID V2, V1, whatever that is, we love you so much. Not because you have COVID, not because like, oh, look, we can relate to this person. No, because love is really the best remedy for how you're going to get through this. You just grind up some
Love.
and
Snort it right up there.
put it up.
Get it
your-
right up there.
Get it up the nasal cavities
Deep.
because that just pushes the
The
COVID out.
COVID out.